Do you ever look at the BGG hotness and wonder why the heck that stuff is sitting up there? If you answered yes, you're in good company here. I'm always staring at the hotness. I probably shouldn't. It costs me money, but I still do it. And then I start to do a bunch of research on what the heck these games are and why they're sitting there. So instead of being selfish and keeping that research to myself, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the 5 most viral games right this second. Well, technically, the nature of virality is it ebbs and flows and changes very, very quickly. In fact, just from last night when I was gathering notes on these 5 games, one has dropped from number 4 to 12, and all of a sudden there's a new thing in here. So I'm going to give you a bonus one based upon the new game that just popped up overnight. In this episode, we're going to revisit an old favorite. We're going to go to a galaxy far, far away. A beloved 2-player game gets reskinned and added support for 4 players. A game tells Agricola to hold my beer. We collect comics. And that sneaky 6 game pops up, which is an expansion to 2 very popular games. We're going to start off with the one that actually dropped out of the top 5 overnight in Mandalorian Adventure. This has been actually sitting up there for a while. It looks to have been very popular at Gen Con. It comes to us from an ex-Fantasy Flight designer and really reminds me of Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. Really because it's a hex-based grid in a booklet, mission-based, scenario-based, card play to do actions, co-op, adventure. The most obvious difference here is it traces season 1's events of Disney Plus's Mandalorian. I didn't watch that, so if you've watched that, I'm sure your hype meter is actually through the roof right now. It has a really interesting action selection. You have kind of character cards, but you play them onto the map that you're playing. I'm guessing those actions might change based upon the scenario, but the card you're playing gives that action its power, and I think there's a tricky mechanism in there that the more powerful cards you play, depending on the action, and kind of cascading failure or an event timer is triggered, which basically makes bad things happen to you. So it looks like you're weighing cost benefit on the cards you're playing compared to what you're going up against. The scenarios look really interesting, but the thing that actually got me pretty interested in the game were some of the spoilers that Alex from Board Game Co. had shared on his review of this, and it actually seemed pretty cool. I won't spoil his review. Go watch it. It's linked in the description. It did a really great job in helping me understand what this game is. So if it intrigues you, go over there, but not yet. Finish this video first. So why has it peaked in this last week right now on the hotness? It's available right this second. It's Star Wars Mandalorian. It was featured at Gen Cons. People are getting it into their hands right now and playing it. And in general, it looks like it's been received really positively. It's currently sitting at a very respectable 7.6 on Board Game Geek. And what is my hype meter on it? It's probably like a 5 or 6 out of 10. I'm kind of neutral to slightly positive on this. I did enjoy Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. I know it's not exactly the same thing, but it's giving me that vibe there. I like the card play. The IP is fine. I think it's okay. I watch most of the Star Wars stuff, but I wouldn't call myself a crazy Star Wars fans or anything. So that's probably why I'm a little more neutral on this. Now, if this was ranked above an 8 and just the most incredible game anyone has ever seen, I'd probably be a little bit more hyped, but it's just positive. And I think it's likely getting a little bit of a Star Wars bump on its reviews, but who knows? I would play it, but just not incredibly hyped on it right now. This next one, Harvest, it's a worker placement game where you build a farm. There's some light asymmetry as well. It gives some Agricola vibes, but cuter, which is probably a really big reason why it's peaking right this second. Is the production is beautiful. This game is so pretty. At least the deluxe copy, the bits are beautiful. The organizer is beautiful. It just got done delivering. You can actually get the retail version right now from what I saw on Amazon. So, you know, I think it's getting hyped, and that's why it's sitting there right this second. I always like when games are available right now hitting the hotness rather than they're going to deliver in 2 years and people are just excited about whatever Kickstarter it is. So this was nice. I will say my excitement here is probably like a 7.5 or so. My wife's is a 10. I showed her this. She's like, that might be my absolute favorite game of all time just because it's so cute. And I do have to agree with her. If you like Agricola, but you also like Stardew Valley and you want a little bit of an art and component update, this might be the game. It definitely looks like Keymaster has done this game right. Early reviews are very respectable, sitting at a 7.7 right this second. Some of the things that are pointed out in Harvest is a very simple rule set, but very crunchy decisions, needing forward planning to solve your efficiency puzzle. I love games that are easy to get to the table, yet have a lot of kind of veiled strategy in there. They help live longer in my collection. The cuteness will help it get to the table. The simplicity will help me teach it to others. So I'm always trying to get into a game like this. A video that is very quick, 3 Things in 3 Minutes by Neril. I linked it in the description, was a very good primer and helped me understand the game a little bit better. Go check that one out if you're interested. I know Tim Chuang also did a bunch of kind of high production stuff that's a little bit longer if you have more time. Next up is Comic Hunters. This was an odd one. I had no idea in looking at it. It was released in 2020. I had to really do some digging in this. It was reviewed by Dice Tower like 2 years ago. Why is it sitting at the top right this second? Well, it's peaking because it just hit the US. This was previously released in Brazil in 2020 and now is being brought to the US, so it's available for everyone. Presumably it's in English. I believe it was Portuguese before. This game asks you to collect comic books. You do that through various almost looks like mini games on drafting. There's like kind of the classic Sushi Go, have a hand of cards, draft and pass. I saw there's some tableau mechanics on using a snake type draft and drafting cards that are adjacent to each other. And then a Candy Crush type mechanic that allows you to move cards into empty spaces to be able to collect them next to each other. There was a wide variety of ways to actually draft the cards, but that is actually only half of the game. After that, you actually have to build your collection, and all of these cards are multi-use. They have a kind of virtual currency on them, and you pay to put other cards or comics into your collection using other cards that you might have collected that aren't going towards a broader goal in the game. The goals are variable through each and every game. You draw tokens, and it gives you hero types. Those hero types are used for the set collection scoring. Comic books are cool. I'm not a comic book collector, so the concept isn't the thing, but just the set collection aspect and all the really unique ways in which you draft these cards and variable scoring. And it is kind of cool to see all of the different comic books throughout the age. I don't think I mentioned this, but these are all real Marvel comic books that are actually on cards. Regardless, it looks pretty fun. I mean, my hype meter's still sitting around a 6. I'm not going out and buying this thing right this second. If somebody has it and wants to play, I will absolutely play it. If it goes on sale, like a Game Nerds deal of the day or something like that, I'll probably pull the trigger just because I am a glutton. All right, this next game up is an old favorite, at least from the last episode. It was also on there, so I'm not going to go pretty deep into it. And you would have to be living under a rock to not have heard about this one yet. It's Arx, Leader Games' newest kind of battler take that game. For those of you that have been living under a rock, the biggest kind of gimmick or hook in this game are actions are taken using a trick-taking mechanic. I won't go into all of that. I've already done videos on all of that stuff. Go check those out if you're interested. There's also a ton of content on this thing. It just keeps moving strong. And from what I heard at Gen Con, it sold out very, very quickly each day. I think there is a ton of hype. I think there's a lot of reviewers that have said some really great things about it. I haven't reviewed it yet, but in general, I'm definitely looking at this thing from a positive light, but it does have its detractors. It is clear this is a polarizing game, at least based upon the comments in my videos. It's not for everybody for sure, so check it out. I would actually also recommend watching gameplays to really see how it works and not just reading kind of negative comments, because I think there's a lot of depth in the game, and if you're at all interested, it's probably worth spending some time and watching somebody play it. So what's my hype meter on Arx? I think it was a 10 last episode, if I remember correctly, although I was like a day away from getting it in the mail. I played it and have had mostly very positive experiences with it. I'm still very hyped to play it. I'm trying to get it to the table in its kind of campaign mode as much as possible right now. So I'm still sitting at like a 9. What was number 1 yesterday, but I think it swapped places with Arx today, but it's in the number 1 spot here. Undaunted 2200 Callisto. This is a re-implementation of systems in the Undaunted series. Undaunted is a very well-respected 2-player only war game. Now they've layered on this sci-fi sci-fi space battle theme. They've given it support for solo. They've also given it support for up to 4 players. I believe in a 2v2 team aspect, at least that's the way it sounded in an interview I watched from UK Game Expo. I'll have that linked in the description. Gives a lot of really good information on what this game is. One of the things that kind of stood out to me was that there is an idea of elevation in the game. As you roll dice against other players, if you're in these elevated spots, you get to roll more powerful dice. I really like that aspect. The theming is I'm kind of neutral on. I'd actually rather try the other Undaunted games first. I've never played them before, but like I said, they're well respected. They're definitely on my list of something I'll play. I think that I will play those though before I ever get Callisto 2200 to the table. My hype meter is 5 out of 10 on this one. Like I said, it's kind of neutral. All right, that is the 5 games, but then I woke up to another one sitting on that list, kind of ruining this list for me. Now it has to be 6 games instead of 5. This one's sort of a cheater because it's an expansion, but it's an expansion to 2 different games, and it's Dune Imperium Bloodlines. This is looks like a 2025 release. It's an expansion to Dune Imperium Uprising, further confusing people on what to actually play. Side note, where all of these expansions slot and what game I'm supposed to play probably has me not play this game at all, even though I really like Dune Imperium, if not actually love Dune Imperium. But yeah, this is more stuff. I'm not as versed in kind of the meta game and how this is going to affect it. So that's why I actually recommend you go and watching Orski. He is huge into Dune. He's a really great resource for everything Dune Imperium. So I highly recommend his channel if you like it. And if you want a full breakdown of at least everything that we've seen, go check that out right now. It's linked in the description. All we really know is kind of the flavor here on BGG. Bloodlines expands a Dune Imperium and Uprising with powerful new tools to achieve victory. Recruit Sadukar commanders to bolster your fighting force, unlock the potential of new tech tiles, new leaders, contracts, and cards open more strategic possibilities than ever. War sweeps across the universe, and the only strongest bloodlines will survive. That doesn't really tell me a whole lot, but there's a picture on there, new leaders, new cards. It looks like just more stuff. I don't know that we actually need more stuff for this game, but I am interested. My hype meter is probably a little bit higher than most, sitting at about around 7. I need to know more about this expansion. We'll see. All right, that is it. That is the 6 most viral games as of today, which is probably a day away from me publishing this video. So if you go and look at the hotness, it's liable to change, but at least I gave you some information on stuff that was popular, at least yesterday. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. If you like this format, let me know. There's a reason I'm doing this video a second time, is because you all let me know you liked it. Let me know some more, and I'll make another one of these next month or when I see the lineup look interesting yet again. With all of that said, have yourself a great week.